The woman's body is cold all year round. She has married to her husband for 20 years, but her appearance remained unchanged, and her face grew paler and paler. How is this going? In a village in Musashi, the woodcutter and his father go up the mountain to cut firewood every day. But it was a very cold day. They suddenly hit by heavy snow when they came back. They couldn't walk an inch to get home as soon as possible. They had to throw away firewood to lighten the load. It was hard to get to the river. The bridge was already covered with snow, and the boatman also left early because the weather is too cold. There was no way for them to swim through. They had to stay in a thatched cottage by the river. As my father was old, and the weather was extremely cold, his father was frozen and fell to the ground. The woodcutter put a cloak on his father, hoping that his father would feel warmer. He slept through on the root of a tree. The door opened suddenly at midnight. A woman appeared in the house. She was all dressed in white and was blowing cold air towards his father. It was not long before his father was frosted all over his face and lost his life. All this was in the woodcutter's eyes. He was too frightened to make a sound. Then the woman noticed him watching. She slowly came to the woodcutter. The woman was pale. She looked straight at him and slightly raised the corners of her mouth. The woman's face was pale and looked straight at the woodcutter. She raised the corners of her mouth slightly. The woodcutter was too scared to move and thought he was going to die soon. Unexpectedly, the woman found him young, strong, and handsome, and decided to spare his life. She warned the woodcutter not to tell anyone what happened tonight, or she would take his life at any time. Then she disappeared into the snow. When the woodcutter got home, he was seriously ill. He didn't tell anyone about last night. 1 year later, his body gradually recovered and started his life of cutting firewood. On the way home one day, the woodcutter met a beautiful woman in kimono. She told him that her parents were dead and tried to find a job in Edo, but the poor thing was that she had always been homeless. The woodcutter said jokingly that it might be better to find someone to marry, but the woman replied, "Will I marry you?" This made a heartbeat of the woodcutter, who had been single for 30 years. It was the first time that a woman showed love to him. They helped each other on the way home. Seeing that it was late, he took her home to rest for the night. His mother was satisfied with the woman's figure and appearance. In order to facilitate her son's marriage, she was advised the woman to stay. After a period of time, they fell in love and got married. They lived a happy life. But slowly, the woodcutter noticed some problems. His wife was all right except her whole body was particularly cold. Even in the winter of -50 degrees, she still wiped her calves with cold water. The woman's appearance remains unchanged after 20 years of marriage. Her body was cold all year round. Even the children born were as white as snow. Their whole bodies were extremely cold. 5 years later, the woodcutter's mother died of illness. The woman gave birth to 3 children. People lived in the village envied her very much. 20 years have passed. She still looked as young and beautiful as ever. People praised her that she was not only beautiful but was also a well-known good wife in this village. At dusk one day, the woodcutter was busy knitting straw sandals for the children. He inadvertently caught a glimpse of his wife busy under the oil lamp. He was surprised to find that at some angle, his wife looked like the woman in white at that snowy night many years ago. His wife saw him constantly looking at herself and asked him curiously what was wrong. He said that he suddenly remembered something long time ago. He told his wife about the woman in white and what happened at that snowy night, but forgot that he promised to the woman in white to keep a secret. All these years have passed. He didn't remember if it was a dream. At this moment, his wife told him it was not a dream because she was the woman in white. As she turned around, the temperature in the room instantly dropped by 50 degrees. At the same time, there was a blizzard outside. She coldly asked her husband why he had not kept his promise. She should have killed her husband as agreed, but seeing the sleeping children, she couldn't bear it. She told her husband to take good care of them, or she would punish him. After that, she left the woodcutter and he chased her outside. His wife's figure slowly disappeared in the snow and ice.